Welcome to the Goalie Mindset Podcast. My name is Pete Fry, the Goalie Mindset Guy, and my purpose is to help goalies have a dominating goalie career. Pete Fry, the Goalie Mindset Guy with the Goalie Mindset Podcast. Excited to have on today's podcast longtime pro and spectacular goalie coach, Jamie Phillips. Jamie, great to have you on, my friend.
Pete, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
You bet. Let's dive right in. Let's just have a conversation. We'll ask some questions and stuff like that. But one of the things that I'm curious with is your career leading to when you went to junior. So before junior, like minor hockey, and because there's a lot of people that are listening that are probably in the same boat or similar that, you know, you and I were at one point during our minor hockey when we wanted to play junior, but we hadn't quite gotten there yet, right? And so yeah, let's chat about that for a little bit. Those years when you hadn't quite made junior, but you were having fun playing hockey.
Yeah. Oh man, that's a long time ago now. I think about it. I started late, so I put on the pads when I was about 12, like 11, turning 12. I was fortunate enough that, you know, growing up in Southern Ontario, so I'm from a town called Caledonia, just outside Hamilton.
Yeah.
Lots of goalie coaches. So I got hooked up at On Ice Goalie School. That was actually the first place. It was like a year-round facility, first place I ever put on gear. And I was able to do that consistently. But I played house league my first year, played like local rep up until Major Bantam. And then I tried out for AAA every year and I kept getting closer and closer. Like the first time it was one of those ones like, "Whoa, we can't believe you've only been a goalie for a year." And then the next time around, it's like, "You look really good," but we kept getting cut and cut. And I had opportunity. So I ended up going to try out in Welland. The team, Welland AAA doesn't exist anymore. I think it's Southern Tier and Niagara North. But I went and tried out. I beat the coach there. Chris Johnson was super like straight up and honest. He said, "If you're better than one of my goalies, I will take you." And like we think about opportunities and all that stuff, like, and what you want is you want a coach who's honest with you and straight up. But if he was true to his word, I was better than one of his goalies. You know, I bumped him out. Fortunately, that kid was able to go and play AAA in a different center, but I was able to get my foot in the door from there. Had a pretty good year. We weren't a strong team by any means, but then the coaches in St. Catharines, just a town over, saw me and they're like, "Hey, like we're a really good team. We're putting together a new spot. Like, why don't you come play for us?" So my minor midget year, made the transition to St. Catharines, which was admittedly a bit of a powerhouse team. I think we were top 5 in the OHL Cup rankings for the majority of the year. We had a lot of players went on to D1. Dougie Hamilton is probably the biggest notable NHL alumni from that team. So we were really good. And I was able to get drafted to Sarnia in the 4th round. And that was kind of this opening to the junior hockey and what does the junior hockey experience going to bring. But I would say my minor hockey, to sum it up, I had to develop very quickly because I started late, but I was fortunate that I had good coaches around me that were able to just give me that guidance because I had the desire and the work ethic. I just was raw and they were able to kind of help work me into a somewhat average goalie at that time.
Okay. Well, that's impressive. So it wasn't until you were 15 that you made your first kind of AAA team. Does that sound right?
Yeah, so that would have been great. I know you're out in Western Canada, so that would be
grade 10 over
like
here.
the WHL draft year. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, you're in Ontario?
No, I'm in BC. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. It is earlier. It's earlier, but I was thinking,
Yeah, so it's a year or earlier. So that would be like the WHL draft year.
Okay. Second year Bantam.
Second year Bantam. I know it's different. Like I'm in the States now, and so second year Bantam would be U14. And then so I played for the Americans out there, I played U14 and U15 AAA, and then I went to junior. For the Canadians out there, I played the old school Canadians. I played Major Bantam, minor midget AAA only. It's only 2 years.
Got it. And how did you deal along the way there? how did you deal with getting cut? Like, what was your reaction? Did it ever make you lose interest, or did it fire you up?
It's a good question. I think it fired me up. I definitely one of those kids that was cut way more than I ever made teams. Like, and even like this, my record of getting cut and still going on to play high level hockey has got to be up there in terms of the ratio. Um, I think I understood that I was starting late, so I was at a disadvantage, but my progress, it had that like hockey stick kind of exponential progress where like each year I was better and better and better. Fortunately, like the goalies so like Hamilton Junior Bulldogs were like my home center growing up, and the two goalies of the 93 age group, they also trained at the same place I did. So I got to like train alongside them and see them, and I was able to kind of like, figure out where I was pegging myself in terms of like, am I here? Am I there? Can I move that peg up? Can I move that peg down? Um, and then so that was get like that guidance.
Yep.
And so that was kind of the biggest thing. But in terms of getting cut, yeah, I guess I didn't really think much of it about it. I just understood that like it is what it is. To my
Yeah.
parents' credit, my parents' credit, my dad was the one that was mostly in charge of all the hockey and driving. But to his credit, like he never like we never like talked about the politics and the nonsense, and he really
That's
wanted to make
huge.
sure that that was separate. And he read. I remember I got an interview with my dad because my dad was really good because when I was younger
Hmm.
and a player, he put too much pressure on me and it made me like hate hockey. And that's why I switched to being a goalie because I was like, I can't do this. And he realized that like, hey, I was the crazy hockey dad. I put too much pressure. He stepped away and is like, this is your thing. I'm only going to support you. And he made sure that there was a big difference between the human being Jamie and then the athlete Jamie, and he made sure that those lines didn't get blurred, and he wanted to make sure that like, you know, on the car ride home everything was good. He'd ask me how I was doing, or if I got cut it wasn't like, oh yeah, that coach screwed you over and all these things. Like he kept
Yeah.
that stuff to himself, and it was just like, well, what did you think? Okay, like what would you like to do? And I think that was really really important because I get a lot of like
Huge.
athletes now, like I'd be like, hey, like where are you playing? And the first thing they say was like, I should have been playing AAA, but the coach screwed me over. And I'm like, well, I know that you as a 12-year-old didn't come up with that on your own. And so I'm very thankful for that part because it kept me like focused, and I never really even thought about all the inner workings of minor hockey and hockey until probably that like major band of minor midget year. I remember the one
Hmm.
time the coach of that center called me in like because before I know now it's different. Like they just either get an email saying you made it or you don't, or they put a roster out, you made it or you don't. This was back when they had to go into the room with the coaches, and then they
Oh, and
told
talk
you,
to them.
oh yeah, they told you like what they liked and what they didn't like, and as they put you on the hot seat as a kid. He said straight up, he's like, you're better than both my goalies, but their parents are in the organization. So we're not going to take you, but we're going to give you your release, and you're going to go to St. Catharines and you're going to beat us every game. And that's what I did. And he was honest with it. And that was like probably the first time I was
That's
like, oh,
impressive.
yeah. Like
Impressive. He was
I
honest.
was really fortunate that I had a lot of really good people in my corner. And even on like some of those opportunities where like they technically weren't in my corner, I came with a lot of like straight shooters who like understood that we are kids and this is development. So we're not going to try to put anyone in like, you know, we would have called it like F1 purgatory where you weren't allowed to trade centers or you weren't allowed to do this. They're just like, just go play, go be kids. Like, yeah, you don't have a spot here, but I'm not going to hurt you from going somewhere else. And I know
Hmm.
that does happen to kids and it is unfortunate, but I was lucky enough to kind of get through all of that.
Sounds like your coaches were good people, right? Which is fantastic. I got a question. Let's talk about your dad. I think it's powerful. So, and if we talk about, a kid getting cut from a team, right? Comes in the car and the parents freaking out, he's going to freak out, right? So it sounds like that was powerful. Your dad was just like, no big deal, right? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I'm
let's
sure
not.
in his mind he was probably like, "This is a big deal," but he was very good at separating. Um, he was also he was the crazy hockey dad in the fact that he was so nervous. Like he used to sweat so much. Like I'm also a sweater, so I get it from him. But like he'd be nervous, and there were times where like he would sweat through like sweaters,
Wow,
and
when you're
like just
playing.
oh yeah, I just couldn't, just so nervous. But he used to like drop me off at the rink, go to Tim Hortons, pick me up, ask me how I did. Um, I wonder if he regrets some of that now because that's like time he could have been watching and expending. But for
Yeah.
him, it was the only way he could have got through it.
Hmm.
But we never really talked about like he never once was hard on me. It was always like if you think about like motivational interviewing, like open-ended questions, it was always like
Yep.
that. And he was a behavioral education teacher, so he was also in a unique position that like
Had
he's
some skills.
used to handling this. He had some skills. He's used to dealing with like delinquent children. So like he's able to navigate conversation very well. So it would always be like, well, what did you think? And then he wouldn't say anything unless I would ask for his opinion or his thoughts. Or if it was a goalie thing, he'd be like, well, talk to Derek. So Derek Bouchon, my goalie coach. Like he knew that like he wasn't a goalie. He didn't get it. So instead of saying, well, I think you should do this, it was, well, why don't you talk to Derek about it? Like go talk to an expert. Um,
Yeah.
that was very helpful, and that definitely helped. I was able to enjoy the game and like love the game as a
Hmm.
kid because there wasn't any of that external pressure. And I see it. I mean, I'm director of goaltending for the AAA organization here in Grand Rapids. Like I'm around kids all day, every day. I'm around parents. Like there's so much external pressure, and like we professionalize kids so early that there are a lot of kids that I've had kids have panic attacks on the ice, like in goalie training, the time when it's supposed to be the most fun, but they're just so conditioned to they need to be perfect today. And it's like, hey, it is July. Like it's okay. Like I don't expect you to
Yeah.
be good today. We're also working on things you're not good at. But they're like worried, they're panicked, they're like blah, blah, and it's just and so many of these things are not coming from the kid itself. Like
No.
it's coming from external things, whether that's parents, social media, like all the stuff. And I was, I didn't have the social media because I'm older, but my dad was very good at keeping me separated from that stuff.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. It sounds like he did a fantastic job. Obviously, he turned out well, right? So
I like to
that's
think so.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so let's move on to then after you go play junior, right? You
Yeah.
start off junior A. So I gotta just gonna ask you general, it just popped in my head because this could help. Like I think what we just talked about there, very helpful for parents, right? Very helpful. They need to hear that, right? They can't be freaking out when the kid gets cut or something like that, right? Uh, Question: how did you ever have to deal with initiation? Did you ever have to deal with initiation? Because I think every junior player still now has to deal with it. So I guess the question would be, what is the best way?
This is a hard topic because I actually had this conversation with Stefano Cantali or Mr. Heffy. Everyone sees him on social media, and he was at my house last week or 2 weeks ago, and we were talking about our experiences, and like I'm very glad that that part of hockey culture or sporting culture is changing. Um,
Hmm.
so my first year I played junior B as a 16-year-old. Well, I don't want to say I played. I was on a junior B team. I got like 4 starts the whole year. Um, and then the next year I moved up to junior A. So I was a rookie twice in junior.
Oh
Um,
wow.
yeah, we like in all seriousness, the things that we had to do were some of them were actual criminal offenses, and some of them
Hmm.
were a lot of them are very bad things, and the kind of things that like if I heard that one of my teams was doing that, I would be so mad. And there were things that like we did that the people involved in those rooms would be in jail for a long time if it ever got out what happened. And that's so unfortunate. And it's hard because and I don't know what the answer in my opinion is we can't just stop it. Like that has to come from the
Hmm.
top where those rules need to be set. And I know we see that, especially in college. I know like as coach, I played and coached at Michigan Tech University. We had a hard no hazing rule. Our sort of quote unquote initiation thing wasn't initiation. It was a team. it was a team like camping trip, and there wasn't any hazing, there wasn't anything like that. We set up like we created like fun teams, and we did like team
Nice.
events just like you would with your buddies, and it was
Uh,
fun and enjoyable, and it was a positive like place to be, and you got to know your new teammates, and it was you enjoyed it. Whereas in junior, like it was like how can we abuse these 16, 17
yeah,
year old
yeah, yep.
kids as much as possible. um and it was really bad. So like navigating that, I don't even know if I'm qualified to give advice. It's just I would say like if you're not comfortable with something, like don't do it,
Don't do it.
because
Yeah.
it's don't do it, and talk to your coaches like immediately,
Hmm,
because
hmm.
that culture has changed where like you're not going to feel ostracized, you're not going to be, punished or anything. If anything, the team will be like disciplined, because we know that that stuff's not allowed and there are hard rules against it, but it's intimidating and it's scary, and like you go through it and you don't like think anything of it in the time, but now that I'm old and I'm adult, it's just like why like that stuff. I hope and pray that like my kids don't have to go through things like that.
Oh, it was bad. Like it was, yeah. I
So
remember
bad.
seeing some stuff and yeah, they would like, yeah. Anyways, it was probably don't want to describe it on here.
No, I don't know what the statute of limitation is in this, so we're
No,
not gonna talk
there
about
you
some of
go.
those things.
There you go. There you go. But that's good advice. That's good advice. Basically, just say no. Just say no if you think it's crossing the line and it's illegal or whatever, and then just yeah, report it to your coach, right? Like stuff I think they could do now is remember we would do some fun stuff too where we're go to watch a movie and the rookies have to go to the front and do a bunch of push-ups. Like
Yeah,
big
like
deal. Stuff
I
like that.
like
Right.
things like that that are harmless, or like in my mind, like sometimes you go to dinner and the rookie has to sing a song on the table. Yes, it's
Yeah.
embarrassing, but it's it's not like harmful, like truly harmful
Mhm.
physically or mentally, in terms of some of the things that we had to do. So, or like
Yeah.
even like what tech does, where you have like whether it's when you get older and you're of legal drinking age, whether it's like a beer Olympics or some sort of fun team event where you mix the teams and it's not rookies against seniors, it's everyone's on the same team, and you're able to do these things and laugh and have fun, and then finish the night, everyone, you just have it turns into a barbecue or a grill or just like a chill
Hmm.
time. Like that's the way. Or you go, when you get old, like everyone's different ages, but you get old enough to go to the bar after and have some fun and just relax. Like that's how it should be. And I'm glad that it is becoming more that way. You hear stories of like different teams being, suspended and stuff for hazing, and I'm good. And honestly, good. Like that shouldn't be a part of culture. And
No.
we're moving away from it for sure.
Yeah. And it just pushes the rookies away too.
It does. It
A
really,
little bit.
it's
Isolates them.
not fun. It's not enjoyable, and nothing good ever happens out of it.
No. So okay, so with making the jump to junior, was there any advice for people just on making that jump? Because you went from boom, making it late to triple A, and then a couple years later, now you're playing junior A.
Yeah, I think so my jump, my skill and development from AAA to junior was pretty quick. Um, I didn't get, I kind of got a raw deal in junior B. um, in terms of the games played and the coaches there. I ended up getting traded, then sat behind like a really good former OHL goalie and just didn't get a lot of games. But I was fortunate enough to get an opportunity in junior A, one that like I had to earn, and there was no guarantees, but I ended up playing very well. So like I was, the skill wise, I was definitely ready to play junior, and stepping into like Pembroke and the CCHL wasn't a big step at all. We ended up winning the RBC Cup, which I think they changed the name of it to the Centennial Cup. Ended up winning it
Yep.
that year. Um, Things were good. Moved on to the BCHL after that. Played really well. Got a scholarship. Was traded again. Kept getting traded. Traded again to the OJ, where I ended up getting drafted to the NHL out of there. But um, skill wise, for me, I was ready. And what I'm
Hmm.
tying this into is I was ready in junior, and even though I was playing well and was a good goalie, I look back and I definitely wasn't ready for college. And so the message that I would give is don't try to force yourself into junior if you're not ready. Like if you're playing minor midget or 15U in the States, AAA, and the next year you're a junior eligible. Like if you like if the people around you aren't saying like, yes, you are definitely ready for junior A or junior at any level, or you've been dominating, like statistically, you are the best of the best, and not because your team is really good, but because you are and you're confident, all these things, like, okay, make that step. You'll know when you get to training camp if you're ready. But I see so many kids try to do it too early, too quick, especially in Canada where we have so many different levels of junior. Um, and
Yeah.
oftentimes it doesn't work, or they fizzle out, or they just there's take that extra year and play another year at AAA and use it in and as a development year, because you'll always go and play junior. Okay, so you only get 4 years instead of 5. It's not the end of the world, because I'd rather my goalies, for all goalies, but my goalies specifically, take the extra year, be ready to take that jump in so that they don't start off their junior career as, couldn't hang, cut, and then all of a sudden you're elite prospects. Yeah, you're bouncing around teams, and it's hard to get
Yeah.
opportunities because it's like, oh, this guy can't play. So that's where I say, like, don't jump in too early. Listen to what, hopefully you have good people around you, but listen to them and ask like straight up, like, am I ready for junior? And a good goalie coach or a head coach or advisor should say like, yes, you are ready, or I think you should do one more year. And if the consensus is do one more year at AAA, do one more year at AAA.
Hmm. Yeah, because they can flourish, right? Because they're
Yeah.
older, they're stronger, they can take more chances and develop more, as opposed to always being kind of behind, right? If
Like
they're
being 16 and going and playing behind a 21-year-old and getting 4 starts, like yeah, I can say that because it worked out for me, but for for most people, it does not work. And in all seriousness,
Mhm.
I lost a whole year of development because I would just sat on the bench. Like, yeah, I practice and stuff, but I didn't get 30 games of junior B when I should have. Um, I didn't get to. I should have went to junior A, like tier two junior A, instead of going to the junior B team. That's a mistake that I made, but I had to live with it. Things weren't good. I was traded, not great environments, all that stuff. And for a lot of goalies, they fizzle out and that's it, or they ended up just like not enjoying hockey and that's it. And they're like, okay, junior's not for me. I don't want to be a junior hockey beauty who's just chewing and drinking and all these things. And then, sometimes a lot of times careers get derailed because they made that jump
Yeah,
too early.
totally. Even myself, like I played Western Hockey League when I was 16, and I was just too immature. Actually, I played well that year, but I was just too
You're just a
immature.
kid. Like you're
Yeah,
just
yeah,
we're
yeah.
you think you're ready a lot of times and you're not. Some people are, but some aren't.
Mhm.
And so I say those McDavids, the Sidney Crosbys, the Jordan Binningtons and stuff, like they're ready. Like skill set, they're there. They're ready to play. They know they're ready to play. Everyone around them knows they're ready to play. Boom. But if you're trying to force it, you're
Yeah, you can't
you
force
tend
it.
not to be ready.
No, no, makes sense. Makes sense. And then, so who was your coach in Powell River?
Kent Lewis was my coach in Palo River.
Louis. He was my defenseman in the Western Hockey League.
Oh, really? So
Yeah.
he might be the only coach in junior hockey history to trade a player for committing to Division I universities, because he did that to me.
He cut you?
Well,
Why?
yeah, so
I
I
gotta
was
talk
brought
to him.
in. Yeah, yeah, let him know. I was brought in. I think he knows because I've been open about how I wasn't happy with that situation. And I
Doesn't
don't
make
want to, this
sense.
isn't me ripping on him, but this is again experiences, and I think it goes a long way. So I had ended up getting traded from Pembroke to the BCHL. And
Yep.
Sean McGuire was the other goalie there. Ended up drafted to Pittsburgh, went to BU, really good goalie. And so we had a pretty good tandem together. Mags was going on to that World Junior A Challenge. So throughout the year, I think it was probably like 60-40. Mags was starting, I was playing. The games I got in, I did really well. Then when Mags went to Junior A, he was gone for like the challenge 2 or 3 weeks. I just took the reins and was running with it. I think I was like 2 shutouts away from breaking the league record by Christmas. Like I was on a tear. And so lot of colleges came knocking. I think I had like 12 offers at the end of the day. Over Christmas break, I decided like, okay, I'm going to go to Michigan Tech, but I'm going to go the next year. I'm not going to play an extra year junior, even though that was kind of part of the plan was to play 2 years because I wasn't supposed to start over McGuire. Um, and Phoenix Copley was coming into Tech that same year. So I figured, okay, like I'd rather us both be freshmen so we can battle versus he comes in and then
Mhm.
he's a sophomore and then I'm a freshman and then I'm behind him for 3 years. I don't get to play. So I think that was part of me committing was like, this makes sense. You know, Steve Shields is the goalie coach. The program's trending upwards. I want to go in one-on-one with Phoenix. Boom. Um, Come back from Christmas. Don't play a single game. We were losing every game.
Oh,
Mags
wow.
and Mags was not playing his best. We were losing every game, and I went from just winning every game and then not playing. And so I ended up going to coach's room. I asked like, "Hey, like, what's going on?" And he said, "He's like, look, I'll be honest with you. We wanted you here for 2 years. We're not happy that you committed. You're going to a school no one's ever heard of. McGuire's going to be you. He's going to represent the program better. So we're going to play him over you." I had to ask for a trade. I went home. Actually, no, that's a lie. I went home to my billets and cried, and then I
Aw,
asked for a and then I asked for a trade.
isn't that brutal?
uh,
But that's
yeah,
crazy what they can do and say. And
yeah. So that was unfortunate. Yeah, so I went asked for a trade. They ended up trading me to a team in the OJ who was trying to make a playoff push. It was a pretty big, it was actually a pretty big money trade, all things considered, for junior hockey. But that's where I ended up going back to the OJ, and it ended up working out because there happened to be a scout in the stands that liked me when one of my games and ended up getting drafted. But yeah, I don't know of any other goalies who get traded for just because they committed to junior A. It's usually it's usually the opposite.
yeah, they want those success stories. Anyway, so they can let, yeah. Anyways, it is what it is. Yeah, I'll see Louis. We have this annual get together that he hosts, right? You guys from like the Western Hockey League team in like 80, 87, a long time ago. And he hosts it in Powell River where he lives and stuff. It's supposed to be beautiful there.
Oh, it's
I haven't
unbelievable.
gone yet. Maybe
Unbelievable place to
this year.
play.
Yeah.
I loved like being a kid from Ontario, like we're landlocked and stuff. I just taking all the ferries, seeing the mountains, the ocean. Like I finished school by that time. It was just I thought it was the greatest. I really and the people of Powell River were great. Small town Canada, like everything about it was awesome. So I was pretty disappointed that I wasn't able to finish the year there, but that's hockey.
Yeah. Yeah. You see any bears there?
No bears, lots of whales though.
Really? That must have
Yeah.
been interesting for you coming from Ontario, seeing the whales.
Yeah, so like immediately in my brain, all I think about is like killer whales. So I'm always freaked out. But we didn't have like ice baths and stuff at the rink. So we used to
Yeah.
go and stand in the ocean after games,
Oh,
and
wow.
it'd be like pitch dark. And in my brain, I was thinking of, don't let a seal attack you, and don't let a whale attack you.
Oh,
And
no.
you'd hear the whales out in the distance and immediately like panic mode. But that, yeah, I just remember standing, the whole team would be standing up to our belly buttons in the water, and you just hear the whales. And you just can't see anything, can't see 2 feet in front of you. But that's what we had to do our recovery after the games.
That's a good mental exercise too, just because it's dark out, right? The fear can set in, the unknown, right?
Oh yeah, but
So,
I was purely sympathetic state the whole time.
oh wow, love it, love it. Okay, so then junior A, then you're off to college. You're
Hmm.
off to college. Adjustment to college. How was that? How was that?
Uh, the college life, not no issue. Like time management, I've always been very good at that. Academics, always been very good. I mean, I have a doctorate degree. I've always been into school
Nice.
and smart guy. Um, I didn't. The biggest thing, and I tell this to everyone. Well, it should go across the board, but I tell everyone, especially going to college, your practice habits, your practice is your game. Like, and if you don't look good in practice, you are probably not going to play. And it's used that way almost always. Like minor hockey, you usually go 50-50 or 60-40. Junior hockey gets a little different. People the economics of junior hockey changed things, so practice doesn't really matter. It's more about wins and all these things. But in college, like you need to perform in practice. You only play 2 games a week. And that goalie can play back-to-back nights. It's easy. It's not stressful. That's not, it's not like you're playing 3-3 or 4-5s. So one guy can just play every single game, and it's no sweat to them. My practice habits, I thought they were good. They were not good. I look back and I was like, they were definitely
Really?
not good. And that was one of the things that set me back. So I ended up being like third string basically the first half of the year into second. Going after Christmas, I became second string. Again, only got a couple, like maybe 2 starts after then. They were just really good starts, so that's why I kept getting chances. But like coaches, that was like the first thing at Christmas time. The feedback was like, your practice habits are terrible, and I say terrible because like it wasn't. I look at it now and what my practice habits were, maybe from at that point after Christmas, and it's like literally going 100% on every single shot. Like the only time
Got
where
it.
you're not is when it's those like bang, 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 bang shots. Anytime you're doing 2-on-1s, 3-on-2s, or you have even a split second, like you're trying at every shot. I don't think there was a single time I stood up on a shot from second half of freshman year till I graduated as a senior into pro. Like everything was a game situation shot. And I didn't know that. And no one told me. And that's my own fault. I should have known. And so I immediately, as soon as you step in, I was pegged as this guy doesn't work hard in practice and he's not going to get an opportunity. And I didn't. I didn't until we were losing games. And then I got a start and played well. And then I got another start like 2 months later and got a shutout and then got another start. But that's the one thing I say is like, you need to take practice seriously, and it doesn't just switch on overnight. That starts now. Like with my Fox kids here, the start of the year, the first goalie meeting we have is practice habits. I just set the tone, and this thing is from whether you're U10 to U18. Like I want us to be known as the hardest working trip goalies in all of AAA hockey, because I don't want to have this conversation with you when you're 16 and go to junior, or when you're 20 and go to college and you're wondering why you're not playing. Like
Mm-hmm.
we nip
Mm-hmm.
any issues in the bud right now. You work hard now, and that continues your entire life until the day you no longer play hockey, and then it continues into school and work and the rest of your life. But we set that tone now,
That's
because I
great.
made that mistake, and looking back at it now, if I didn't do that, there's who knows, career would have been maybe different in university. But you live and learn
Yeah,
that
you
way.
do. You do. We're human. We're human. And so the big difference between, not good practice habits and good practice habits would be like this, just treating it like a game, like bearing down on every shot, as opposed
Yeah,
to that
and
was the
as
big
you
difference that you changed.
it's a mental thing. Like
Yeah, yeah.
technically, I didn't just somehow become a better goalie over Christmas break. Like my goalie trainings time were always dialed in, but it was the practice, like no
Mm,
one likes flow shots. I get it. I don't like flow shots now. I don't like when they're programmed into practice, but it is what it is, and you accept it, and you have to understand like, what am I going? I need to make this save, and maybe I'm focusing on something today. Maybe I'm focusing on staying square through shots, or recovering
yeah.
properly than my rebounds. That's okay, but you need to have intention on every shot that you can. You make a save,
Yeah.
and the play breaks out the other end. You're following your rebound because there's no next shot coming. So you play like you would in the game. Get to your feet, hit your RVH, allow your players to whack it out. I know I see some goalies get mad when players shoot their rebounds. Battle on their rebounds.
Good.
Yes.
That's going to happen in a game.
Yeah. Yes, it's tiring. I know it's tiring. Like you practice, especially in minor hockey, you practice for an hour, 15 minutes. Like you, it sucks in the first, week or two of the season. You're not in the shape that you want to be. You're not in playing shape. I get it. You can do a lot ton in the off season, but it doesn't always translate. But after
Hmm.
2 weeks, you get your lungs, you get your legs,
Yep.
like it comes back, and you just have to make that mental shift. Like, are you willing to try on every shot, or are you going to coast through practice?
Yeah.
And I can't make, as a coach, like I can't make that decision for them. I can only help guide them, guide kids, or be like, hey, I need you to up it a little bit, and they are the ones that have to be in the driver's seat for that thing.
Hmm. Yeah. Jerry Rice,
I know, I mean, I don't know Jerry Rice,
the
but I
name.
know I know the coach.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's got the most touchdowns of all time in the NFL still. Uh, anyways, I saw a teammate of his talking about him, and he said they were just in training camp, and the first day of training camp, and the rookies were in line, he was in line, so the other guys on the team, every player, they were playing with Joe Montana, who was the quarterback. They were warming up. Every player would kind of just jog, get the ball, jog, give it back to him. When Jerry Rice went, he went full speed, sprinted, caught the ball, went all the way down in the end zone, like 100 yards, and then sprinted all the way back. He said every single time, right? And at the end of practice, he went up to him. He said he must have done like 10 miles of sprints. And he went up to Jerry Rice and said, "Why do you do that, all that running?" And Jerry Rice said, "Oh, it's easy. Every time the football touches these hands, this body ends up in the end zone." Right. So he had that powerful belief. And he has the record for most touchdowns in the NFL because he has the most record for most touchdowns in NFL practice. Right. Is what I tell people there, right? That it carries
It
over big time.
yeah, it does. And like another example, a good example is Tom, like for the younger kids, is Tom Brady. Like, there's
Hmm.
Tom Brady has an entire business, $1 billion business, the TB12 method, that's basically just his habits. Like it's just
Yeah.
his business is his habits. And everyone likes to bring up his combine footage and how terrible it is. Yes, he's an incredible quarterback, but he also worked incredibly hard. Now, I expect every one of my goalies to have Tom Brady skill? No, but I would like them to work as hard and be as intentional in
Yeah.
their effort as Tom Brady, because you can be a very average athlete and a very average goalie, but you can go far by being that one that outworks everyone, because eventually you start to get better and you get better and you overtake the kids that maybe have more natural skill or are taller or more flexible that aren't doing those extra reps. And we see it. Yeah, it doesn't happen when you're 12 or you're 13, but when you're 17, 18, and over 5, 6 years, you've done so many more reps that you can't not get better at that point. And so that's,
Mhm.
as coaches, we try to push those athletes because we know that there's always more. We want more out of you. And if your goal is to get to that next level, then I'm going to push you. And I always I have a conversation with athletes, like, I want to know like what your goals are, because if your goals are to get to the next level, I'm going to push you hard. If your goals are you just want to have fun, that is a-okay, because I'm not going to push you crazy hard. I'm going to make sure you're having fun and getting better, but I'm going to treat the way I'm going to coach you is going to be different based on your goals. And so I'm fortunate that the goalies that come to me want to get better so that I can push them. And they understand that, like, look, I want you to have every opportunity and be able to reach your dreams. And at the end of the day, say, I gave it everything I have. And so, well,
Yep.
I'll push you. I'll do what you can. And if you need help, I'm here to help you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I want to talk about your business, your goalie training in a sec here too. It's got a couple more questions. So from college then to pro, what was a big thing transition wise?
The big thing transitioning wise is that the one I go to is I acknowledge when you're struggling mentally. That's probably the biggest thing, because I got cut a lot and all these things, and I always thought I was mentally tough, and I guess I was, like, all things considered. But when I got to pro, I didn't. Now the thing for me was now money was involved, and I didn't realize till after the fact and working with different psychologists and mindset coaches that I had this, not phobia, but I had stress around money. Like, I knew that I was playing for money and my performance was dictated. If I didn't play well, then I wouldn't get new contracts. I wouldn't be able to afford rent, all these things, all these thoughts went through my brain. And this probably would have been like, this would have been like 2016, 17. We're still like being open about mental health wasn't there. Like, players weren't openly saying they have anxiety. They weren't entering the NHL players weren't entering the program because they were stressed. They had,
Mm-hmm.
very rarely for like substance abuse issues, or if they did, it was so hush hush. Um, so my first year was first year of my deal, no worries, no stress, playing great, dominating the East Coast, all-star, American League starts were good. Um, Next year, now I'm in a contract year, and all of a sudden those negative thoughts start floating in. Well, what if I'm in the coast again? What if I don't get opportunities? And then that's, it's never a good thing. You can't play if you're just playing with fear and negative emotions. But I was too stubborn to acknowledge that, hey, something isn't right until like it was too late. Now I got hooked up. I remember I called you when I was in Florida and I asked like, I need help. I ended up working with a guy in Winnipeg, Bob Broden. I think he's in Calgary now, who was really helpful. But the thing is, it was there was so much damage was already done. And like
Mm,
working to like the things that I needed helped me get an extra 2 years into my pro career where I was like, I was ready to just quit hockey after my entry level. I was like, I just don't want to do this. But we are able to get through it and keep working and extend it another 2 years. But I should have started as soon as I acknowledged that some things are wrong, or as soon as I felt something was off, I should have reached out to help. And
mhm.
I didn't. And there's a reason that I'm not playing anymore, and that's one of those reasons is I didn't do it, and I regret that. But again, that's all part of my journey. I think that's the biggest thing is like for young kids out there is if you something doesn't feel right, you start to get performance. You get those not those excited butterflies, but those I don't want to be on the ice butterflies.
Mhm.
That's not a normal thing. And you like reach out, talk to your coaches, and then hopefully
Yeah,
they help get you to somewhere. Speak to someone like yourself, or like just you need to speak to an expert
yeah.
because that's what our job is. Our job is to find those things and help those kids. So I struggled with that. It was really bad. I say this story, I've said this story a few times. Like I remember being in Newfoundland. So I signed a contract with Charlotte in the American League. So it was an American League deal. I
Yeah.
was playing in Florida. We were on a road trip to Newfoundland. It was my turn to start. I just remember having a panic attack on the bathroom floor, and I was like, I don't know how I got out of the bathroom. It was either I'm gonna get up and play this game, or like I'm gonna throw myself out the window. There's no in between. Like that's the point I got to. And I was only able to get through it because I was just a good enough goalie that even though I was playing like my brain, everything was, was a war zone. I was able to get wins and play well. And like you play well enough, you buy yourself like a little bit more time to just enough to get through that next game. And then then you can relax, but then 24 hours comes to your next start and then it comes back. But then you play well enough in that first period that you buy yourself a little bit more time. And it's so incredibly unhealthy. And like because of that, I ended up like developing like pretty bad anxiety that I still have, some pretty bad depression that I still have, and I've had to go to like therapy to deal with that outside of outside of hockey, so I can say real life, um, because I just never I wasn't open to what I was going through. And so
Mhm.
now whenever I have kids that like I can tell something's up, I always will refer them to an expert because I'm like, this isn't mine. Or even if it's something little like, being like, hey, check out Pete Fry's book. Like maybe it's gonna help you, maybe it's not, but you gotta at least try it and acknowledge that something's not right so we can get
Yeah.
you back on track.
Well, it's interesting what you're saying there too, because the mind is the most powerful thing, and it's the most powerful computer on the planet. Maybe not now. There's so many good computers, but it's pretty powerful. But it's like we have it with no user's manual,
Mhm.
right? And they don't teach it in school. They don't teach it in school, and yeah, a lot of people can think themselves into depression, into even not playing well and stuff like that, right? It's crazy, but yeah, I try to teach them to understand that your mind is not you, your conscious mind is not you. It's part of you, but it's not you, and you actually control it 100%. But once again, they don't teach that in school, right?
Yeah, and it's hard, and I'm glad that the game is more open. You see a lot of NHL players
Yeah.
going through it. Um, there's been a couple of former, especially like a lot of guys. You'll see it not a lot, but there's been a handful of entry level goalies that stop playing after their entry level, and you're like, you were a
Hmm.
high draft pick, like you signed the NHL, like what happened? And it just mentally they don't want to do it
Mentally.
anymore, and it's hard. So like being able to have those tools, being open and willing to talk to someone, to be able to have a game plan, to have that user manual. I like that analogy, to have that user manual to right the ship and to troubleshoot things that are going on so you can go out and play it, because it all those things just came into it, sucked the love out of the game. Like, what was the why behind your playing? And the why was, like, my why was never because I wanted to make millions of dollars and do all these things. That would have been nice. It would have been sweet if I did. I'd have a really nice car, a lot better than what I have now. But it was it's because I loved it. And it was like the
Yeah.
first thing I knew that I loved. And I lost that. And that's what sucked. And it took me about 3-ish years after retirement to find that love again through coaching. But all those things just ate away and chipped away, and eventually you lose your why. And as soon as you lose your why, like, that's when you're done. And again, like, a lot of goalies will call me and, like, in their, like, towards the end of their careers, and they're like, "How did you know?" And I say, like, "Well, what's your why?" And they're like, "I don't really know why I play anymore." And it's like, that's usually, as soon as they say that, I'm like, "Oh, I want you to think deep about what your why is, because if you can't find it, then I think you know what your next step is. But if you know what it is, you're like, yeah, I still love it. Okay, keep playing. There's something else there." So that's usually it.
Yeah. And there's lots of things that can pop up that can lead us to not liking the game, like negative coaches sometimes. Or like they'll say stuff. And did you have any traumatic situations from any coaches saying something like, they're threatening you as far as not playing and stuff? Like,
Oh yeah.
you
Oh,
gotta have
so
some
many.
story. You gotta, what's your best story with that?
So I have so many. I it's it was like, when people, it's so funny. My young kids, we always give, like, little kids, like Gen Zers, a hard time for being soft and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and the coaching styles are different. I know, like, USA Hockey has, like, a course on, like, how to coach Gen Zers and, like, all these different things. And I laugh sometimes when my goalies would be like, "Oh, my coach was yelling at me." I'm like, "Was he yelling at you?" Because I know your coach, and I don't think he's ever yelled to anyone ever before. But I think about, my best example is probably, like, Sheldon Keefe, number one. Great, like, we won the RBC Cup together. Very good coach. I think he's an incredible coach. Great guy.
Yeah.
Super hard on me. Um, and I'm glad that he was, when I was in the moment, not glad, but now it did help a lot of the best ones. So we were playing Christmas showcase. So right before we're about to, like, you play your 2 games and then you go home for Christmas break. Um, I don't know who we were playing. I don't know if it was Hawkesbury. Someone we should have been better than. And they scored 2 goals in the first. One was like they weren't bad goals by any means. But they were just 2 goals. And I remember sitting in the dressing room, like, that's thinking nothing of it. Like, hey, we're down 2-1. That's hockey. Comes in and just snaps, and eventually just says, "If one more goal, don't even look at the bench. Just skate off the ice, get undressed, go home with your parents, because I'm going to trade you." And
That's a
so
perfect visualization in a negative way.
oh yeah, and so I was so
Like,
nervous. They ended up hitting like 3 posts the rest of that game. Didn't score again. Just hit 3 posts. We ended up winning. Um, And I think probably for him, he was like, "Yeah, I fired him up." No, I was
yeah,
so scared.
it didn't help. It didn't
Genuinely
help.
so scared. No, it didn't help. But, like, that's one of the stories I use. Like, been threatened to be traded, been called out, like, "You are the problem. You're the reason we're not winning." Like, "You're the worst goalie there." Like, all these things. Like, these aren't
Oh
all just from
yeah,
him,
I
but
hear it
these are
all the
many
time.
coaches.
Yeah.
I've had coaches not tell me who's starting before. Like,
Oh, that's the
in
worst too. Like they don't. Who was I talking to? They get their schedule 3 months in advance now. I don't know if
as he
it's
should. I
National
say
Hockey League
I have
or
a 24-hour, like, you as a coach, you should at least, or if you're a goalie or goalie parent, like, ask your coach for 24 hours or at least 12 hours the night before. But
yeah.
when I went in college, so Phoenix had just signed with Washington, and our head coach was not happy with that because he thought I was terrible. And my stats were average, they weren't anything good. But first game of the year, it's me and the freshman goalie that are rooming together. But not once was the which goalie was playing said. It wasn't written on the board. So I remember we didn't even know in pregame skate. So after we woke up after nap, and I just said, like, "Hey, I'm gonna start because I'm older than you." Like, that was it. Like, I'm sure if he started, no one would have said anything. But I just said, I'm going to start because we're older. And we ended up going 10-0 to start that year. And that
Oh,
was,
wow.
I was one of the top three goalies in college hockey that year. But like, there was no rhyme or reason. And never heard a good game from that coach until like maybe the 13th game because we went 10-0 and then lost two and then won one. And then it wasn't even like a good game. It was like a nod. But like all those like mental like things, like I just assumed I was playing because I was older.
Yeah.
Like who knows? Who knows what would have happened? I probably wouldn't be standing here if I had just was like, all right, well, I don't know. I'm just not gonna
Yeah.
play. Crazy.
Because when you assume you're playing, you're going to go with the scenarios in your head, right? You're prepped and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
I think going back to what the coach was saying, you know, you're going to go in, you're going to get pulled. I'm going to send you home and trade you. It's, we walk into the picture we hold of ourselves. And a lot of times coaches don't understand that. So they'll kind of screw with our mind and paint the opposite picture, right? Generally through threats, right? Because that's,
Yeah. And that's old. That is old school coaches, and it's hopefully changing. And I think actually I find more and more coaches are acknowledging they don't get goalies, so they
yeah.
don't say anything, which sometimes can be detrimental as well. So I think it's like that's why I like when coaches, or I like when organizations have a goalie guy that's there
It's
because it's
huge.
our job to be that bridge between the
Yeah.
goalie and the player, and so we can help. The coaches will say like, "How should I do this?" One of the owners here at Fox coaches two of the girls programs, and he'll say like we'll talk about our goalies that are the goals they're giving up, and he'll be like, "What can I say to them in practice that helps remind them to reinforce whatever you're saying?" And I'll just give them the cues. I love that. No one, I can assure you that 15 years ago, coaches weren't asking that to their goalie coaches.
No, no,
It's like
no.
that clip of Keith and oh, I can't remember the goalie coach at the time. Um, in Toronto, it was on like the NHL one where they're yelling at each other that you have to get a save. Well, it's like it was deflected off a guy's butt. How do you expect them to save that? And they're just like going back and forth and yelling. Like
No, the
that's
coach
the
is yelling at the
conversation
goalie
to
coach.
go through.
You gotta get the guy to get a save. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's like, yeah, yeah. I think a lot of times coaches see every save not made as the same. Sometimes it's just whatever it is, what it is, right? I think as goaltenders, it's just one, right? Either
Mhm.
way, no matter what happened, right? Anyways, anyways. So what would you say in your career is the number one thing that you're most proud of? The number one highlight, so to speak. What would you?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know if anyone's ever asked me in my whole career. Oh, that's a good yeah, I don't know. I'll have to chew on that one. I think like in terms of things that I'm most proud of. Honestly, like it's probably I don't want this to be a cop-out answer, but kind of like all of it. Like I
Okay.
am proud of all the highs and all the lows because I think about that now and like in my position now as a goalie coach and as a physio and as, an adult, all these things like those made me who I am today. They also help card me into being someone who like I think I'm a pretty good goalie coach, someone who's able to articulate these things, to able to understand, I know what it's like to go through the minor hockey process, to junior, to AAA, to pro, to get called up and sent down for the NHL 14 times in a year, like all those things, I get those. I also know what it's like to be the guy, to be dominant, and then I also know what it's
Mm-hmm.
like to be the one that just doesn't want, is like so fearful of giving up a goal that you don't want to be in the net. And I like that I can bring all those things together and then coach young goalies. And then if someone is going through something similar, I can I can sympathize with that and be able
Yep.
to help with them and coach them with that, or be able to identify like this is something that I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm going to ask someone else for help to help me help them. So I think all of that really helped kind of bring me into the kind of the coach that and mentor, I guess, that I am today. So I don't know if there's one thing I could think of right now. I'm sure there's something, but all of it, I'm definitely very proud to have gone through kind of the whole meat grinder of pro hockey.
Yeah, good for you. Good for you. No, it's not easy. It is not easy going through that, right? But yeah, no, you had a great career that you can be very, very proud of, and pass it on to the kids now, right? And let's talk about your business now. Tell us a little bit about exactly what you're doing now.
Oh man, I do a lot of things. I wear many hats, but I'm starting to slowly come up with my two. So I'm at the goalie side. I run a program called Elite Goalie Method. That's
Okay.
my in-person training, remote training, and then coming 2025, I have a very robust goalie coaching app. Um, that's I know there's a few out there that I think are pretty good, but I'm very confident that this is going to be hands down probably one of the best things. Um,
Nice.
it's basically you get my entire mind and entire coaching philosophy and everything and detail. It's so much detail all in one app. But yeah, so a lot of coaching, the private side. So like lessons, I was on the ice for 2 hours this morning. Director of goaltending at Fox Motors AAA, which is nice because I'm very passionate about youth hockey development
Yep.
and being able to try to do the right thing and push the right thing and really grow and develop because North America has been hurting for top end talent. So we're trying to flip the switch on that. I goalie coach with Muskegon Lumberjacks, the USHL. Really like that. Two very good goalies. Knock on wood, they're two in the top three in the league right now. We have a good team that helps too,
Nice.
but we have a good team, so I'll admit that that's probably contributing to it mostly than more than me. Um, director or not director, excuse me, goalie development coordinator for USA Hockey in terms of Michigan. So I help
Nice.
evaluating,
Yep.
analyze, and come up with stuff for making sure that Michigan's kind of pushing it forward in terms of goalie stuff. I have a goalie podcast called Goalie Science, where it's myself, Dr. Ben Cernick, and Derek Boujan, where we talk goaltending science, a lot of coaching, like coaching and
Yep.
helping parents navigate and all that stuff. So and then I guess social media, where I, I don't know, influencer
Yeah.
content
What's
creator.
your Insta? What's your
I
Insta
oh
handle?
at Jamie Phillips 30. It should pop up, but it's a lot of
Yeah.
like yeah, again, a lot of educational content. And I say if you like my Instagram, like shameless plug, you're going to love the app because it's like 1,000 times more detailed and informative and helpful. And then on the other side, as I am a doctor of physical therapy, so I just opened my own clinic. It's in the rink here, which
Wow.
is great. So I specialize in hockey player rehab. So it's called Ghost Rehab and Performance. Go to ghostrehab.com to book a session, but it's a lot of hands-on, one-on-one hockey player focused physical therapy.
I could use
And
it. My
yeah,
shoulders
hey,
get
just
lifted up much.
you know where to find me. And so it's great. So I just opened that like last week. Uh it's been great. Nice little wait list of athletes. Treated a couple this morning. Yeah, so it's great. So I got to do two things, and it's perfect because my clinic is in the rink where I
Yep.
coach, so I don't have to go drive around all the whole world. And it's really awesome. I've been very fortunate that I've been able to kind of like set up my post-career life the way that I want it. Really good relationships with different like agencies and stuff, so I get to coach all over the world. Um, Guest coaching here, private coaching here. I've been to Europe to do some coaching. Like it's a pretty good thing, and I've been enjoying it quite a bit.
Yeah.
Um,
And you can
this
tell you love it.
Oh yeah, it's like this. I love it because the same passion I had for when I played, I now have that and probably more. Like this relentless obsession with making sure that my goalies are getting the best possible treatment, whether that's on the ice or in the clinic or whatever it is. I make sure that they get that. Like all the things that I wanted when I played, like
Hmm.
I'm in a position to provide that to my goalies. So I make sure that they get it and I'm not cutting corners. And it's funny because my wife, she's probably listening in the room. We were arguing because I was for the clinic. I was trying to get like the most expensive, like name brand everything. I was like, we got to get this. She's like, no, you got to like you got to be smart about your money. I was like, no, I am not
Listen
cutting
to her,
corners.
listen to her, listen to her.
I was like, we are not cutting corners on this. We are getting the stuff that my athletes want. So they get in, they are getting the top quality things. Um, and so we were going back and forth on that. We did compromise, and I didn't get four TVs like I wanted to. I got one TV, but
For-
it is what it is.
That's funny. That's funny. And you must have met your wife in college.
I met her in
Assuming.
PT school actually. So I met her
Okay.
post-career. So when I went back to school, I ended up meeting her. She's in the same program. So she's a physical therapist as well. She works with the Medicare, Medicaid program here. So for patients 55 and older, she is unbelievable at that. But yeah, so we met after, not, admittedly not a hockey girl. So she's learning to love it. Um, so we even now like we
Great.
explain the rules and stuff and
It'll
going
grow.
through it. Yeah, and she's been great, and I spend a lot of time at the rink if you haven't guessed. So
Hmm.
she is the best in terms of supporting me and making sure that as long as I spend time with her, that she's willing to let me spend all the time at the rink that I can give.
Yes, yes. And any kids yet?
No, no kids,
No.
not for a couple of years.
No.
We want to make sure like we want to make sure that the time is right if the time is ever right for that stuff. But
Mhm.
I really want things to be set up in the business so that they are running on their own, that I can take a different role,
Yeah.
excuse me, and have a little bit more time for my kids. So right now is the put in all the grunt work, the many, many hours a week, so that the future of it, I can coach when I need to and want to and treat when I need to and want to, but I've set it up so that I have, a lot of it is like my former athletes coaching with me. And so
Yeah,
they
you
have
can
jobs and
carve some time out then.
yeah, so they former athletes are coaching, so
Oh,
they have
nice.
jobs. The goal is as Ghost Rehab grows, I would like to hire more former hockey player physios too, as
Hmm.
specifics. So like basically creating a funnel for former hockey players that want to be in these positions. I'm offering that avenue because they understand it and they get it. So it's I know it's different. Like growing up in Canada, we go to physio and like everyone knows hockey, like everyone gets it.
Hmm.
Here, it's so different because everyone knows football, baseball, basketball.
Yeah.
And so many athletes will go to their traditional physio and they like, what do you mean you slam your knees into the ice as hard as you can 500 times a day? It doesn't make sense. So
Hmm.
like treating them, they're not getting the best possible treatment. So bringing a lot of these like former athletes that are able to go on after, after hockey into higher education and like be willing to put those extra years in and the money and the investment into that, um, is great because if I can hire them, perfect because they get it, and it's a lot easier to have hockey people working with hockey people.
Yeah. 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 100%. 100%. Um, no, that's fantastic. And then do you do anything back in Canada still or just in the US?
Right now, it's just in the US. Occasionally, when I
Okay.
go home, I'll coach a little bit alongside Derek Boujan, my former goalie coach.
Hmm.
Will do like stuff. But right now, it's just I've been really focused. I've been so big as I've been so busy that like
Yeah.
running camps, and I'm not a big camp guy. I love the goalie camp. I love going to goalie camps, like the social
Yeah.
aspect of
I
it.
used to love that. Yeah.
Yeah, but as a coach, um, I don't love putting on 25, 30 goalie camps, just because I want to make sure that each goalie gets the most like development. So I really try
Hmm.
to push my goalies towards more into like I like two goalies to one coach sessions or one-on-one
Okay.
sessions. Or throughout the summer, I run what I call weekend intensives. So the goalies, we set it up. So if a goalie is interested and they're like, hey, you doing any camps? I go, no, I don't do any camps, but I do an intensive, meaning you're going to come down and we're going to skate Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 2 times each day with a break in between all these things. And it's just going to be you, another goalie, maybe two other goalies, Max, and myself, and shooters. And this is where you're going to get all the development. Because I find like, 5 day
Mm.
camps, kids are exhausted. Like day 4 and 5, they're not getting much out of it because they're just tired.
Hmm.
And if you're only getting a handful of shots, you're not getting that one-on-one time you need. So for me, like I just do the weekend intensives throughout the week, and it's kind of by like a la carte basis. So if someone reaches out and like, hey, can we do an intensive? Yes, let me get it booked. Or it's like, here's my schedule. This is when I'm coaching all summer. Book a time, try to go once a week or once every second week, and then that's the best versus a camp. So right now, like no camps. I do guest coach it a lot, which is great because it
Okay.
means I don't have to do any logistics other than fly in, fly out. And I like that because I can go in and do some awesome stuffs. I do some things with AHA hockey. They're an advising agency. So in Boston, Vermont, and New Hampshire, we'll do like coaching and stuff like that. But yeah, guest coaching around the play around. I like that stuff, but my own things, it's usually small group and like intensives throughout the summer.
Sounds like lots of value for people. Sounds like a great
Yeah,
program.
that's what I try to bring. Like, again, like I love camp. Like people say, like, should I go to camp? I'm like, I don't know what your budget is. Like, I can't say that, but like the social aspect is awesome. Like, I loved
Mhm.
hanging out with all those goalies and talking gear. But for me, I'm the coach now, and I'm trying to help you. If you're focused on what is going to give you the best value in terms of development for your dollar, this is how I do it. This is what I feel is best. And so this is how I run it. If that doesn't work for you, that's okay. Here are some camps that are awesome that are around.
Yeah,
But if it does, perfect. Let's get something set up.
that's great. And then growing up, you work with Derek Boujan.
Mhm.
I've heard great things about him.
Yeah, so Derek, he owns On Ice Hockey Performance Center in Hamilton, Ontario.
Okay.
It's player, goalie, treadmills, gym, everything. Uh, he is, I mean, I worked with a lot of goalie coaches, and I can just obviously there's a little bit of bias, but he's the best goalie coach I've ever skated with. Um,
Really?
my goal is to try to be like 80% of what he is. I don't know if I've reached that
That's
yet.
quite a compliment.
He's he should be in the NHL. I know that I guess it's the opportunities never come there, but he is incredibly good. So if you are in Southern Ontario, go skate with Derek. Like, just go skate with Derek. It's one of those ones where you're gonna skate with him and you're gonna be like, how have I not been skating with this guy my whole life? So go skate with him. He's smart. Even when I hop on the ice with him, we'll do coaching together, and I'll be like, I'll be kicking myself because I was like, I didn't see that. How did you see that? Like he's just like he was his step ahead of me in terms of his coaching. So I lean on him heavily for mentorship as well.
Okay. That's great. And what is the one thing you would say that makes him so unique?
He is the most effective communicator. His
Okay.
ability
So
to
with his coaching.
Yeah, and like I like for me when I coach, I wear the knee pads. I love to go out and demo. Like I
Yep.
wear have bulky knee pads, lots of times just slide. I like to demo the stuff. The way he can explain and articulate what you need to do without having to demo, like I don't know how to do that yet. I would like to,
Okay.
but
You'll
he's
get
able
it.
to
Repetition.
he's able to explain it, and you're just like light bulbs go off. You're like, that makes
Hmm.
sense. Okay,
Hmm.
that's why we do it. And it's like it's really distilling that why in terms of why we are doing things. And I haven't found anyone in it, really very few things in life, whether it's professing, coaching, anything that are able to explain it as clearly as him.
That's a huge skill, right? Because we see words and pictures. So yeah, you must be using the right words there. That's powerful. That's powerful. Let's see. Yeah, we'll just let's just chat. Let's just BS or whatever, right? Have some fun. What's uh what's the who's the funniest person you ever played with or against or was coached by?
Oh man, that's hard. Hockey players are I feel like hockey players are just genuinely funny guys. Um, Malcolm Gould in college. He's
Okay.
in BC now. I don't know if he's coaching. He was for a little bit. Hilarious guy. One of the funniest guys. He just I know it's hard to pinpoint one because when you play for so long and so many teams, you just meet so many good people and so many characters that like you're never not laughing. And that's what I miss the most. I say that to everything. I miss the boys. Like I miss hanging in the locker
Yeah.
room after a practice with half my gear on, just laughing and having fun. And like you don't, you don't get that to the truest degree in real life post hockey. So I miss that. So I'd say for the easy answer, I would say Malcolm Gould. I played with him at
Okay.
Tech. Hilarious guy.
Okay. Malcolm Gould. There you go. Shout out to him. And what's the craziest thing you've ever seen, so to speak, like in a game or in practice or teammates or
Craziest thing. I've seen a lot of crazy things. On a more morbid note, I've been involved in a hockey game where a referee had passed away
Oh,
and
sorry to
a
hear. You know.
a fan had passed away during a game,
Ooh.
which is like it's so
Separately?
weird. So the referee won. He fell in warm-ups and hit his head, unfortunately, and passed away, which is terrible. And then the one in the fan, he had a heart attack during the game. As they stopped the game and everything. I've pulled people's teeth out from getting hit in the face with a puck. And they come as like you're backing up. They're like, "What do you see?"
That's
And like, "Oh, your
crazy.
tooth's dangling. Can you just pull it?" And I like pulled people's teeth out. I've been part of buses catching on fire when you're playing on road hockey, like road games, having to
Oh
wholesale your
yeah.
gear out of, out of the bus so it doesn't catch on fire. Um, what else? What else crazy things? There's just Dang, there's so many insane things that just happen in hockey.
You
What
ever
about
have
you?
any
What about you?
teammates?
What's a crazy thing?
Well, one thing is, I was gonna ask you ever teammates some infighting there. A good friend of mine, Greg Batters, we played together in Victoria, the Western Hockey Victoria Cougars, they were called, right? They're now in Prince George, and he had a bill that lived with him, Micah Avazoff. Mike ended up playing a little bit in Detroit, and Greg was drafted by LA. So they lived together, and they were always fighting. They were always fighting, and it really came to a head. We're playing against a new. You ever heard the team New West Bruins?
No.
Okay, they won like a bunch of more cups back in the day. They're now Tri-City Americans. They're now in Tri.
Okay.
So we're playing in New West. We're on the road, and Micah is skating off. He's skating along the boards. You skate along the boards, and then you got the bench right here, right? So you skate along the bench right here. And as he's doing this, he's like 6 feet away from the bench. Greg comes in and runs him against the boards, like his own teammate. Like he just it was a penalty. And the ref started to put up his hand, but he took it down, and he really didn't know what to do. I thought, wow.
We've had, excuse me. Um, I I don't think there was ever infighting because guys didn't like each other, but we've
Mhm.
always, especially in college, like because you practice so much and the practice is so intense, like there was all every week there would be a fight because the intensity would get high. And I was always
Mhm.
and I was part of them too. I javelined my stick at someone once because he just wouldn't stop shooting on the rebound and I didn't like it. Um, but that's the intensity of practice, and it wasn't out of
Yeah.
hatred or malice. It was because we were just like intense and fight. Um, oh, there was one that just popped in my head, and oh, what you were saying before. So when I first signed my entry level deal, I was sent down to Tulsa in the East Coast League, and I had just coming off an 8 week ankle injury, and I was returning to play. Things were good. Training camp went well, and Danik Paquette, who's a longtime fighter, gotta look at his gotta look at his elite prospects. The amount of penalty minutes is crazy. Actually, he's in the newest season 2 of Shoresy, so he's one of
Oh,
the
really?
yeah, he's one of the French fighters they bring in. Um,
Oh,
and
he is.
I think he acts as himself, which is pretty cool. But
Okay.
he is tough and crazy in a good way. And so we were doing a 2-on-1 drill, and he's coming in forward, and he drives the net, and he just shovels the puck at my pads, but goes full speed and hits me, like blows me up, kills me in the net. And no one does anything because he is our fighter and he's tough and fought every single night, multiple times a night. And like I was just worried, like, okay, did I hurt my ankle again? I was like, please, no, like I'm not going through this. And I remember after practice, I went out. I was like, "What the f was that?" And he just said, well, he's like, "You're an entry level rookie guy, and I don't want you thinking you're better than any of us." And that was just his way of showing it. Was absolutely blowing me up into oblivion. But he just said it, and then it was
Wow.
never like he wanted. I mean, he could have hurt me, but it wasn't that wasn't the goal. The goal was to send a message. And great guy, we were playing cards every night, and he stuck up for me many times, but that was just his crazy, insane way of making sure I didn't get ahead of myself in anything. But yeah, so that
Really?
was one of my wild stories.
I'm just looking for his His Dan Paquette, right?
Danik Paquette, yeah.
Oh, Danik. Yeah, I just had him pulled up. He looked
Yeah,
scary.
he played a long
Holy.
time, high level draft pick, played in Lewiston, Maine
Don't
in the
want to mess
Q.
with that guy. He looks like a killer in a movie.
Yeah,
He's
so
like,
it's funny because yeah, he's in Shoresy, so like I think I would say most people listening probably have seen it. So go back and watch it. So that's who I'm talking about. And when you see him, you're gonna like, yeah, I don't want that guy running me at all.
still playing 24-25 season.
Yeah, I think he's in that French,
LNAH.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the Quebec league there.
Unbelievable. Yeah, some crazy people. Some crazy people in that league. Wow. Wow. Unbelievable stuff. Unbelievable. Do you know Tom Lawson? Ever heard of Tom Lawson?
I haven't. Tom Lawson.
Okay, you'd love him. He's a great guy. He's a goaltender, former goaltender. Anyways, so here's another crazy story. He is he got a full ride to Bowling Green.
Okay.
He goes there the first year and he's not playing, so he leaves. Like he leaves. He just leaves, right? And he goes to play pro in the league's not around anymore. Right? Whether it's the West Coast
United?
Hockey League or it could have been the United Hockey League, something like that. And when he goes there, there's their number one goalie is hurt. And you ever heard of Pokey Reddick?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
His
yeah.
his son played at Michigan Tech the
Stan
year before I got there.
or no,
Bryce Reddick.
Bryce Reddick. Okay. Oh, I was thinking of
Yeah.
his brother because he had a brother too. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I played against Pokey when he was in New West. Like he was a good goaltender. Anyways, so the bottom line is the starting goalie was going to come back in a couple of games. So he knew he had a small window and he told the coach, play me, play me, play me. Because like, no, we're going with our other guy. Right. So the other guy starts and he's playing well, makes a few saves, doesn't come up with a save. First period ends, it's 1-0. And he looks at the coach after the guy didn't make the save. He's like, put me in, put me in, put me in. Right. Second period. The guy's still playing pretty well. 5 minutes into it, doesn't make a save. As soon as he doesn't make that save, Tom doesn't ask permission, jumps over the boards, skates to the goalie, says, Coach told me to go in. So, so the guy leaves, goes back to the bench, right? Tom's in there, and he said he stood on his head. They ended up winning, and then he went on like this crazy. The coach didn't say anything to him about it. Then he went on this like crazy winning streak after. It was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. I could never imagine doing. Can you ever imagine doing that?
No, I didn't have the goal to do that. And if I was the goalie that got pulled and I got back to the bench and I was like, what's that for? And if the coach said I didn't say anything, I would have hopped
You
that
you
bench and fist and got in a fight in the middle of the game with my
you
own teammate.
you your own teammate. That would be awesome. That
Yeah,
would
like
be
I would have went crazy if that was the case and I was the other goalie that got pulled.
yeah, exactly. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. I've never heard anything like that.
That's wild.
Cool
That's a
story.
wild. That's I don't think I've ever heard anything like that either.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. So, um, what else? What else you want to talk about?
I don't know. Hey, I can talk for days. What
Yeah.
I like is I have a hard time coming up with ideas, but I'm very good at answering
Okay.
questions.
Yeah. And I'll come with some ideas here. Um, let's see. We talked about the funniest thing. Oh, what's the story in your career that maybe not a lot of people know about where I don't know, maybe you got it. Like I got one for me that I'll share, but maybe you got in trouble or something like that. And maybe it wasn't funny at the time, but it's funny now looking back. Uh, I can
Give
give you an
me
example if you
give me
want.
your story, and while you're
Yeah.
talking, I'll see if it sparks any ideas for me.
Okay.
I try to
So
bury those things in deep in my brain so I don't have to think about them.
yes. This would have been my fourth year. I was 19 years old in the Western Hockey League, and I lived at home in Victoria at my mom and dad's place. And we actually took a billet, which is a defenseman on our team, Will Anderson. Will ended up getting drafted by the Islanders, and he was like one of those funniest guys ever, right? So it was actually really good for me. It relaxed me, but he was kind of a little bit over the edge, and anyway, so for Christmas. I get this BB gun from my parents, but it looks like a real handgun, right? It looks like a. So Will's all excited. He gets it and he takes it as we go to the arena. and we have practice. And then after practice, Kent Lewis, your old coach, you can ask him about this. Kent Lewis, Randy Hoffert, I think they're both defensemen. They're driving together. We're in Victoria. We're right downtown on Douglas Street, and we're out of lights. We're out of lights. Across from a car dealership, and there's a bank on the other on to the right of us. And Louis pulls up beside us in his car, right? So Will decides that he's going to play like there was this old TV show called Adam 12 a long time ago where they like put the gun on the hood and pointed at someone. So he gets out of the window, goes on the hood and points the gun over at Louis and Hoff there, right? And he's like joking around. He comes in, he's laughing, and then also there's like 6 cop cars behind us, like just boom, like out of nowhere. And they're like, they got the sirens on, and they're like, pull over to the side of the road, drop the gun. Like they're freaking serious, right? They're like, drop the gun. And I'm like, oh man. And so I pull over and I'm like, Will, put your seatbelt on, right? Because we didn't have, some back then, sometimes you wouldn't wear your seatbelt. You're supposed to, of course you get a ticket for it. Well, I always wear it now. Anyway, so my first thought was put our seatbelt on so we don't get a ticket for the seatbelt. And so we got the seatbelt on, and then the cops are like, put your hands on the roof. So our hands are on the roof, our hands are up on the roof. And then they're like, get out of the car. I'm like, we got our seatbelt on. How can we get out? Like, and keep our hands up and stuff like that. So they're like, get out of the car. They're freaking out. And then so finally the cop comes up to my window with his gun, like boom, just like that, right? And they're like, drop the gun. Where's the gun? And we're like, it's a BB gun. It's just a BB gun. We're just playing around. Those guys, anyways, it was crazy. So I never saw that gun again. That BB gun.
I don't think I have any stories that are that wild. Oh man, I definitely don't have any crazy ones that were like hidden. I usually tried to ride the straight and narrow, and then like
Mhm.
I was very low key, so I'm um like on the road, especially when I went pro and in college, on the road, I'm a big coffee guy, huge coffee snob, like the fancy, expensive.
Oh,
I
I
spent
miss it.
I
Yeah,
spent
I
so
love
much
coffee.
money. I have like every apparatus that makes coffee and grinds the beans and like Bluetooth connected scales and like all this stuff. So like on the road, I would just, instead of getting into hijinks, I would always just find the highest rated, like most hipster coffee shop, and I would just Uber and spend my day there. So I didn't get into crazy things. One of the funny stories that I have was going back to like rookie party. We had our rookie party, and I had gotten in rough shape. So like even like it was like 3 days later, I still wasn't fully recovered. It was bad. I'm pretty sure I had alcohol poisoning. But
Mm.
this was the next practice, and we were doing a drill where it was basically just a 3-on-0 below the hash marks. And your coach knew that it was post rookie party, and we were just going again and again. And that was the only time I've ever thrown up on the ice, was I just had to lift up my mask,
Oh
and it just
man.
all came out. It was bad.
Yeah, that's crazy. Did you finish the practice or did you go off or what'd you do?
I'm pretty sure that was all she wrote for me that
That
day.
was it, eh?
I was done. It was towards the end of practice too, but it was like the last like 10 minutes, 15 minutes of bag drills, and it all came out.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's another good thing to talk about is alcohol in because if I could go back, I would actually cut that out. Just not based on what I know now. Based on what I know now. Right. What are your thoughts on
Yeah, I never,
alcohol and hockey?
it was never an issue for me. I was always, actually, honestly, based on that rookie party experience, I didn't drink for a long time after that. And I
Really?
was very fortunate that like I was good and like just social drinking, and never any issues, never got any out of any hand or did anything wrong. But I've seen it. Like I see a lot of guys that do struggle with it, or
Hmm.
aren't able to reach their highest potential because of it. And so that is unfortunate. But I was fortunate, something I never like struggled with. There was never an issue for me. I always knew that like, hey, this isn't good for me, but we're drinking because, this is the team thing, and that's okay. I'm gonna have fun and enjoy it, but I'm gonna stay in control. Um, It's not going to be like, I wasn't ever that person where like it's Sunday, I'm going to crush a couple of beers, so it's football. Oh, there's football today, I'm going to drink a couple of beers. It was never that. It was like, save it for Saturday because we just got a sweep. All right, let's have some fun.
Yeah, it's so embedded in the culture, right? It's crazy. It's so embedded in the culture. But yeah, you're right. A lot of guys are pretty good, but some guys just go too far, right? But I think when I played, I probably went too far a little bit, right? So I would go back, I would stop it, right? But yeah, it is what it is. It is, we live and learn, right? We live
We
and
live and
learn,
learn.
live and learn, live
Absolutely.
and learn. So, what else? What else you got? You got to have some other good stories.
I don't know. I think I got time for one more before my
Oh
my
yeah,
wife kicks down.
we've been here 2 hours, right? It's like,
Yeah, before my wife kicks down the
yeah,
door, and
yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah,
that's
let's
okay.
we can stop,
I
but
don't. Yeah, yeah,
let's
yeah. Let's end on one. Let's end on a high note. A good story. Um, I don't know if I have a go-to one. I'm trying to think of a go-to one. Do you have a go-to story that you're like you use every single time? You've probably said on the
oh
podcast.
oh good one. A go-to story. Yeah, not I tell the one and when I was drafted and my thoughts were I don't have a chance and stuff like that, right? But that's more of an inspirational. Um, you're talking a funny story?
Just any
Funny.
story. I'll give you mine.
Yeah.
So mine was I didn't even know I was on the NHL draft list until a opponent, a friend of a friend called me. So I
Yeah.
remember I was pretty good in junior, but I ended up, like I said, going to the OJ and not the greatest junior A hockey league. So like you don't really get I was never a top prospect going to the
Okay.
NHL or anything like that. And I remember, so our team wasn't great, but I was playing very well. And going into playoffs, we ended up like upsetting the first round or two, where it was like one of those ones where it's like 50, like 65 saves a night. Like I was just playing sweet. My body was hating it, but I was playing great. And I remember I got a call from a random number, and I can't remember the name, and I got to go back and find it, but he was the friend of one of my good buddies, Kyle Dutra, and he was
Mhm.
playing on Toronto Patriots, and he's like, yo, did you see? He's like, congrats, man. I was like, congrats for what? He's like, the the draft list. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you're on the NHL, and he just kept going on and on and on. So I had no idea what was going on, and then I had went home, found it on the internet because it wasn't as like widespread as is today. Actually, that ties into being drafted. My one buddy, David Freeman, he was watching the draft on like the actual TV feed, and
Okay.
I wasn't because it was getting towards the late rounds, and I was like, okay, it's not gonna happen. And he called me and is like, yo, he got drafted. And I kept pressing refresh on the thing and it didn't pop up. And I was like, oh, why would you do that? Like, you're messing with me. And it took like a good 10 minutes to finally update.
Oh no.
And then that's when then I saw my name pop up and I had to call him back and say, you're right. You weren't just giving me a hard time. So those are kind of my go-to two stories
That's
for
awesome. That's
for
and
fun.
congratulations too on getting drafted. You know, it's not a lot of people, not a lot of people do, right? And to make a AAA team late and persist and go through that's huge.
Thank you. Yeah, no, thank you. I
It's
appreciate it. The career's been good. I had a lot of help from a lot of very good people. And like I said, like my goal is to be able to provide my athletes all the tools that they can have to be successful that they
Yep.
wouldn't normally get elsewhere in other programs or organizations or things like that.
That's awesome. You're doing great stuff, Jamie. Keep it up. Pete Fry, the goalie mindset guy here. This is a goalie mindset podcast. So excited that Jamie Phillips on today. We'll have to have him on soon again in the future for sure, and just keep up to date with what he's doing and stuff. Make it a great one.